Hey there, hi there, ho there, kids. Sorry, I meant to speak a lot softer because I know you're nursing your Friday night hangover into Saturday morning.
Get those greasy eggs and bacon going, kids. Fire up the coffee pot.
That's right. The weekend edition of Sports Frenzy 2.0 hitting here October the 1st, 2022, taping here on the 28th of September.
This is not the Wake and Bake Club, kids.
We're going to try to get you through your weekend. If you're not a big sports fan, then we will tell you what to listen to, what to watch. And if you're a big sports fan, find the time, damn it. If we recommend it, it's worth watching, it's worth listening to.
And you should be listening to the regular Sports Frenzy podcast that drops on Thursdays.
That's right. He's a conquistador, Dave Height.
He's the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And as always here on the weekend edition, we start off loud. Music, rock, and
we want to
roll.
rock.
We've got an EP for you. We've got a full-length Lost album and a couple singles to review here in the first segment. So we shall start off with the second EP of the last few years from Mr. Billy Idol.
Yep, The Cage. 4 songs, the first of which is the title track.
Now,
we reviewed it as the single a while back.
Which you liked more than I did.
I did like it more than you.
Now, I want to go back to The Roadside, the first EP, and real quick discuss. I was disappointed in that. Outside of Bitter Taste, which was a phenomenal song.
Bitter Taste was incredible.
I thought the rest of the EP, the other 3 songs, were a bit overproduced. Rita Hayworth comes to mind. A little bit too polished, a little bit too
mellow,
artificial almost to me.
Not Billy Idol.
Well, now, yeah, he has come out and said, him and Steve Stevens, his longtime guitarist,
right,
have come out and said that The Cage is more of a rocking EP than The Roadside. I will dispute
that on 2 of them.
And I still think...
And it's still not as rocking as it could have been.
To me, it's still too polished, still overproduced. It's just not, to me, Billy Idol.
It's not. And
again, this is taking into account Dave liked The Cage more than I did, the first single. Now we've also got Running from the Ghost, Rebel Like You, and Miss Nobody are the other 3 tracks to round out the EP. And I honestly, I didn't like any of them. I didn't like anything on this. No, I didn't hate anything.
I will say, Running from the Ghost, 1.5 to 2, it just was it could have had more of an edge. Rebel Like You could have been a phenomenal song. With the lyrics, they just missed it musically, and it did not have the edge that it should have had.
Completely agree.
That one had the most potential of any of the songs on there.
And
they missed the boat.
The closing song, Miss Nobody, almost sounds like a throwback disco song.
It's too fucking poppy disco-y. That one was awful. It should not have been done.
I think based on what you're saying about the second track, Running from the Ghost, maybe you and I are flipped a little bit on the first 2 songs. As you like Cage more than I did. I didn't love Running from the Ghost, but I think I liked it more than you.
That was a 2 to me.
I'd probably go 2.5. Now, the EP, I can only give it a 2.
That's where I'm at with it.
It's again really disappointing.
It's not what you want from Billy Idol.
And you and I are huge Billy Idol fans.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's too polished and overproduced.
Now, is that because, and I can't believe it's because of his voice, because on the quieter moments, again, we go back to Bitter Taste, any quieter moment like on Running from the Ghost, his voice sounds fine. It doesn't sound like it's being auto-tuned.
No,
it sounds like it's him.
It sounds like him. But they just are missing it on the musical front and giving it that driving edge.
We've talked about this. you can get the wrong producer, the wrong engineer on an album, and it can botch the entire affair.
Yeah, and that seems to be the case on these two.
Yeah. Even if you put both the Roadside and the Cage together,
there's enough there that could have been phenomenal.
And again, Bitter Taste is one of the best songs I've heard in the last 2 or 3 years. But
absolutely.
There's nothing here on the Cage that matches that. So instead of getting one great song and 3 songs like we did with the Roadside, we get 4 songs
here
like we did with the Cage.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I can only give 2 frenzies for Billy Idol's The Cage.
And I am right there with you. Sadly.
Yeah, I know. It's a little disappointing. And unfortunately, we come across this now, it seems like more often than not, where I give acts like Billy Idol credit for
They're
at least trying to put out new material instead of just resting on their laurels.
Bring back some of your past producers.
Well, something you and I were talking about off mic. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to lose the fire.
Exactly.
And it would have been nice to see Billy Idol still have that rebel yell attitude, that punk mentality, that Gen X mentality.
That's that rebel like you. You had the lyrics there for it, but it wasn't produced properly.
Yep.
And he should have taken more control in putting this together.
And the sad thing is, he's got Steve Stevens back with him.
I know.
His man, his foil, who was with him through his greatest moments in the 80s. Again, something you and I should be running everything.
We should.
We would make everything better, including Billy Idol's newer material.
All right.
Now we're going to go back in time to a lost album from the Smithereens. Now, unfortunately, lead singer Pat Denizio has passed away. He's been, unfortunately, gone quite a while, over a decade, I believe.
Yeah.
Time flies. But the Smithereens in the 90s were a really good alternative to the grunge movement. Yeah. They were a kind of a throwback to...
They hit that late 80s, early 90s crossover run. Almost between not punk, but kind of the alternative in there with XYZ.
And I think when we get to the album review here of the Lost album, which is one they put together when they were in between record contracts, jumping ship from one label to another, they thought they were going to put out an album on their own label.
Right.
So they put together this album, which has not seen the light of day until now.
Hence, it's called The Lost Album.
The thing is, the Smithereens, and this is a strength and a weakness at the same time, is that they could do almost any type of music. The problem is that they would go from the Beatle-esque stuff, the 60s poppy stuff, they would have the harder edge stuff, they would have almost the grunge, the punk stuff.
Yeah, they could run the gambit and make it work.
But I never got the feeling they ever found their own voice, because they would go so far back and forth between all these different styles.
I think, what was it, 11 was the closest they had to a full album of what they could have, what their voice. I think that was the closest they came.
Now, this will tell you something. Speaking with my daughter, 21 years old, she has been listening to Especially for You. She loves early Smithereens. So
interesting.
I don't know what that says about the current generation's taste in music.
Or were the Smithereens that much ahead of their time?
let's get into the Lost Album, and then we'll discuss further.
We'll go from there.
Because again, I find the Lost Album very indicative of
They're up,
the positives,
down,
the
back,
negatives,
and
the strengths, and the weaknesses of the Smithereens. There are so many songs on here that are really good,
homages
and there are
to...
so many that are so bland and weak. Because again,
and almost you can tell the knockoffs.
Starts off really good with Out of This World. This is a typical Smithereens
It is
pop rock song. Very good starting track.
It kind of had that Girl Like You beat to it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a great start.
Very good song. Then we get into the downsides. This is almost
Dear Abby was just...
Again, this is where I find the Smithereens to be frustrating, is that, again, they never found their own particular path. They would careen and jump and veer from one lane to the other. Dear Abby sounds like a bad 60s song.
Yeah.
By a Beatles cover band, almost.
I don't even know if I would give it that much credit.
And it does. Then, unfortunately, Don't Look Down was okay.
It was one of the better ones that I liked.
And then A World Apart was a kind of weak, mediocre to weak.
That had that country vibe going to it that we talked.
But then we get into a really decent stretch where we get Stop Bringing Me Down, which rocked.
That had that hard edge that was beautiful.
They jump all over the place in terms of their style.
Yeah.
Stop Bringing Me Down is a harder edged rock song.
And then you got Pretty Little Lies.
Way too poppy. Way too poppy.
To me, it reminded me of a Buddy Holly song. Going back to the 60s, late 50s, early 60s vibe.
Right.
I thought, oh my God, this could almost be every day.
And then, again, the album is not sequenced well, in my opinion. They should have.
No.
I would have put the rocking songs together instead of spacing it out, because what you're doing is you're going pop.
Just when rock, you get into the album, they bring you down. Then they bring you up. Then they bring you down.
Because
then you're up. Then you're
after
down.
Pretty Little Lies, we get Monkey Man, which is awesome.
Monkey Man was phenomenal. That was one of my favorite tracks on here.
Yes. And again, they go back to their rocking side of their personality.
And then probably one of the worst on there.
Everyday World.
Yes, that was...
It didn't bother me. Everyday World didn't bother me. It was very simple but moderately catchy, but I didn't love it.
It did not do anything for me at all.
And then you get Face the World with Pride, which reminded me of a Monkey song.
Exactly. That's what I wrote down.
Yes. Not Monkey Man, earlier reference, but no, a Monkeys song,
It says Monkeys right there.
Sounded like now I didn't like the title. It was a very clunky title. I mean, it's very Face the World with Pride, but musically it sounds like Mickey and Mike and Peter and Davey.
Yeah.
You know?
It had almost that Last Train to Clarksville type vibe to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we get another generic, what I would call a generic Smithereens song.
This was super cheesy.
Love Runs Wild.
Ugh, another clunker.
Then we get the title. When I saw the title of this, I thought, I'm not going to like this. And it ended up being one of the best songs on the album, I'm Sexy.
It was okay. I did not hate it.
I loved it.
I didn't love it, but it was one of the stronger tracks.
I like the lyrics. I thought lyrically
it was good. Musically, they could have done something a little different.
And then I didn't know what to make of the final song, All Through the Night.
That belonged at the end. It was a clunker.
It sounds like they rushed the chorus.
Yeah.
You know? All Through the Night. It goes it's slow, it's plotting, and then All Through the Night.
It would have been better with All Through the Night.
No, So, I know this is going to sound contradictory to what we've done here as we've gone track by track.
But it's a typical Smithereens album.
I will give it 2.5 frenzies.
I am on the same damn page with you for that one.
It has got some really, really good moments on it. Really good moments. But it's got the typical Smithereens. Again, I don't
I
know if this
don't
is
know.
Pat Denizio or somebody else in the band who just loves these melancholy 60s songs, but you just want to shake him. And I'm sorry, I know he's dead. I'm saying this figuratively, not literally.
What the hell were you thinking? Pick
We
a path
don't like
and
these
stay on
songs.
it.
But again,
It's
they
worth
have
listening
enough
to.
high points. Like Dave said, typical Smithereens album. This is not an embarrassment. This is not something that seems like a cash grab. It
No,
seems like
this would have been a good album for him at the time.
it seems like it is a benchmark in their career. It seems like this was pretty much a fully formed album.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's not a cash grab.
No.
It's right in there with, like Dave said, a typical Smithereens album. 2.5, 3 is always how I kind of looked at their albums.
Yeah.
So
I was not completely disappointed with this one.
And I'll probably listen to it again.
Oh, I will. I've listened to it 3 or 4 times already.
Yeah, and the Smithereens, even you get through the dull moments to get to the better moments. And they're one of those bands that I can have on in the background, and I kind of like it. It's almost comfort rock and roll to me.
I listened
unlike other bands where we've had.
I listened to it 2 times in a row over the weekend on Saturday when I was working on the basement, finishing off working on the ceiling, getting that ready to go.
Yeah, I ended up listening to it a lot more than I thought I would, based on the first couple listens. Where again, I knew right away, "Stop Bringing Me Down," "Monkey Man," "I'm Sexy" were the songs that I was going to like, but I could tolerate the rest of it.
Yeah, even the down ones were tolerable.
Right. So again, 2.5 frenzies from both of us for the Smithereens Lost album. Now we get into the harder rock, our 2 singles for the week 2 review. Number 1, second single from Bush, The Art of Survival, coming out here in a couple weeks. Heavy is the Ocean, and this is a heavy, lumbering song.
It's long. It's got a heavy bass line to it. I love the chorus. The chorus is fantastic for it. The rest of it, lyrically, was so-so. I wasn't over the moon for it.
I agree pretty much with everything you said. Great call on the bass line. It is, it's just a heavy. The title is very appropriate.
Yeah.
That being said, not bad. I've heard worse. I'll give it 2.5 frenzies.
I was going to go strong 2, weak 2.5.
I did like More Than Machines, the first single, a little bit more.
Yeah. That was definitely
this isn't a
stronger.
terrible second single.
No, it's not. So it kind of gives us hope for the album.
Yep.
All right.
Then we move on to Mr. Wolfgang Van Halen.
The cash grab song.
Yeah, boy, I've already vented on this. I did not like the news when it came out that they were already releasing an expanded edition of Mammoth WVH.
This should have been the first release from a new album.
And of course, this is a bonus track from the Japanese version of Mammoth WVH. Yes, I am not a fan of this.
I hate this crap when bands and acts pull this.
Yeah. And of course, we talked about this in the past. The Mammoth WVH reissue will have 3 new songs, quote unquote new songs. Of course, Talk and Walk, which we're going to review right now, was a bonus track on the Japanese release. Now, reviewing the song in and of itself, it's a great song.
Oh, fantastic.
I can see why he wanted to put it out on the Japanese version. I can also see why he didn't want to put it out on the American version, because it's really good. And again, I'm biased. I know that. It's not quite as good as what we got on our version of Mammoth WVH, but it's still solid. I liked it. I liked it enough to give it 3 frenzies.
Yeah. 3 is right where it belongs, and that's why I said when we started, it should have been the first release from the next new album. He should have saved it for over here for a new album.
I would have saved it. I would have saved it. Even if it wasn't the first release, it still should have been on the second album, along with the other 2 songs he's releasing here.
Yeah.
Coming up in November.
Don't do a reissue. You have had one album. You do not get to do a reissue with bonus tracks yet.
Yeah, I agree completely. You know how I feel about this. I am not a fan. I'm not a fan of reissues, even if the album's 20 or 30 years old.
Agreed.
Unless you have got a ton of archival material that we've never heard. Scarecrow, I heard, is coming out. Mellencamp's releasing a 2 CD edition of Scarecrow coming up here
with
before
stuff that he left off.
There's cover songs, there's acoustic tracks, and maybe 2 or 3 new songs. That still seems to me like a cash grab.
That's a cash grab. Sorry.
And I don't want to hear, well, if you're a true fan, you want to be a completist.
Yeah, no, that's bullshit.
Well, it could be worse. It could be Guns N' Roses. The Use Your Illusion box set that's coming out.
Oh, God. It was bad enough having the 2.
They claim they've got like dozens upon dozens of unreleased tracks. Live tracks. Live
tracks mean jack crap. No, those do not freaking count.
Yeah. The only quote-unquote new song on this Use Your Illusion box set is an orchestral version of November Rain.
No. Cash grab.
Oh, yeah. Definite cash grab. Now, I will bring this up about Wolfie to close out our music segment.
That he's doing this to pay for the wedding and the ring that he gave. Wait.
That's funny, though. I like that. No. Now, last night, again, we're taping here on the 28th of September. So last night, the 27th in Los Angeles, was the second of the 2 Taylor Hawkins tribute concerts. And of course, we know that overseas in London, he broke his little promise where he said he wasn't going to play his dad's music.
Right.
And he played with Justin Hawkins of The Darkness, singing lead on Hot for Teacher and On Fire.
Right.
So rumors were running rampant about he's going to appear. He's already slated to appear in Los Angeles. Who is going to sing? And Sebastian Bach's name came up. And I was like, oh. Now it turns out Sebastian Bach ended up playing with Black Sabbath. Or at least a amalgam of Black Sabbath. They brought Justin Hawkins back to do Van Halen again. They did Hot for Teacher again. And now a new version, Panama. I got to listen to this. They're Wolfie
killing me with Panama.
I got to hear Wolfie play Panama.
I have to hear him play Panama. That is, I love Panama.
Yep. So I'm hoping, again, I haven't gotten confirmation. Paramount Plus had the London concert to watch. I don't know if last night they had the LA concert. I'm hoping they do. Otherwise, of course, we always have YouTube.
Yep. I want, you mentioned Sebastian Bach. We've talked about it. We saw him do his thing at a small club. His voice is still phenomenal. He sounds great. He needs a regular gig. He needs to have new material and a new album.
Yeah, I want to see if I can track down the concert from last night in its entirety, because eventually I'm going to get around to watching both the London one, which I've seen about an hour of, and then last night's, because I want to hear.
Yeah, but
I want to hear Sebastian Bach doing Paranoid.
Yeah.
With Tony Iommi on guitar.
I can completely skip hearing the whole Miley Cyrus Pink.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Really, Dave? Really? Really?
And it's amazing how the rock community embraces her. Because remember, David Lee Roth said that if there was a Van Halen tribute tour and he couldn't be a part of it, he thinks Pink would be the best choice to do his parts. And Sammy Hagar, believe it or not, came back out again. He's keeping those fires alive, talking about the Van Halen reunion.
Did you read the article? Yep.
He goes back and forth. He sounds like he really loves his time with Van Halen,
but he hates it at the same time.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable how he goes back and forth. He goes back and forth.
He used to be indecisive, but now he's not so sure.
Yeah. I would love to do it with David Lee Roth, but I hate David Lee Roth.
Yeah, David does not play well with others.
Yeah. Sammy, I don't think you do either.
Yeah, no.
Frankly, I don't think you, Eddie, Dave, any of you,
your egos could not coexist, which is why everything blew the hell up.
Yep. And of course, next week, in a great segue, we will be reviewing the new album from Sammy Hagar and the Circle, Crazy Times. Comes out Friday.
Yep.
As you're listening to this, it's out.
It's out, which is why this article came out with the whole interview with them asking how he reconnected with Eddie during Eddie's final months. Intriguing, if that's how it actually played out.
Yep. And then
I hope that's how it actually played out.
And then, of course, when it comes to the reunion talks or the tribute tour talks, he almost I found it offensive to a point where he almost dismisses Joe Satriani, who has been the one everybody's talked about as taking Eddie's place. Because then he says, well, if it's me and Mikey and Joe, it's just Chickenfoot with a different drummer.
That I hated that freaking phrase.
Yeah. Yeah, he says it's just Alex Van Halen instead of Chad Smith.
Which
and I'm
is
like, okay,
absolute crap.
Don't dismiss the reunion, the tribute talks like that. Don't do that.
No, I'm sorry. Alex, in his own right, is a phenomenal drummer who does not get the credit he deserves. Because, I'm sorry, the drum tracks on a lot of Van Halen stuff compliments Eddie. And in some respects, there are some songs where Alex's drums overshadow what Eddie has done on guitar.
Well, I think the bass and drums that Van Halen had with Mikey and Alex, vastly underrated.
Oh,
they would lay down a foundation for Dave and Eddie or Sammy and Eddie to go crazy and go wild, but they were the bedrock.
Everything on time.
Mikey and Alex were the bedrock of Van Halen.
Yeah.
All through the years.
Yeah, the singers and Eddie could go nuts, but you had the consistent drums, bass that kept the song on track.
Yep. All right, kids, we could talk about Van Halen forever, and I'm sure there'll be something that'll come up down the road, and we will start discussing them again, but we have to move on.
Good grief. Has this segment ended already?
Yep. And it is time to move on to movies.
Get your popcorn, kids.
I have got a review of a couple documentaries, but of course our feature review for the week is Peacock, a movie that was in the theaters, albeit not a wide release, but Mr. Novak from The Office, BJ Novak's Vengeance, will be our feature review of the week.
Yep. 100% review on this one.
If you haven't seen the movie, I know that just went over your head, but it's actually a very smart reference to Vengeance. Dave and I will be right back with our movies of the week. Stay tuned, kids. Are you tired of getting body slammed by the mainstream sports media? Are you sick of their lame trash talk? Check out Sports Frenzy 2.0 with a tag team of the Maestro and the Conquistador. Pile drive those jackasses into submission. Available on all major podcast hosts, including Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast and Castbox. Kevin Dave slap a figure 4 on all the major sports networks who lie, kiss ass, and refuse to take names. New episodes drop every Thursday with new weekend edition episodes every Saturday. And that's the bottom line, because Sports Frenzy said so.
All right, kids, we're going to keep it calm for your hangovers. Hell no, we're not going to do that. It's the weekend edition of Sports Frenzy. I'm the Conquistador, Dave Height.
I'm the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
And it's time here on October 1st, as you listen to this, recorded September 28th, 2022. Time to talk about movies on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Amazon, Audible, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, and Stitcher!
I bet that did wonders for your hangover, didn't it?
You're awake now, kids, as we talk about BJ Novak's movie now showing on Peacock, Vengeance. 100% quirky. 100%.
And again, you've got to watch the movie to get that reference. That one in the
Bless your heart.
the two quotable lines from Vengeance.
Oh my God.
Now, when I saw this before Dave, I had this review actually ready for last week, and it was nice. Dave got an extra week to watch it, and I got a week to venture off and watch some documentaries, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But this, I told Dave, you got to stick with this for at least the first half an hour. Do not judge it based on the beginning.
Wait for it, because it's a slow burn to start with.
It starts off in New York with a bunch of unlikable millennial types.
The hookup culture morons who, to Novak's character and his friend, sitting there on their phones talking about the different women on there that they've hooked up with and how they have them nicknamed to try and differentiate between them. And their stupid ramblings on their view of the world.
It's the selfish millennial snowflake viewpoint that
100% morons.
Now, again, like I told Dave, you've got to stick with it, because Dave just made a great point about how they were coming up with nicknames and alternate names for all these women they hooked up with. It ends up being a very key plot point towards the end,
because it all comes full freaking circle with Abilene.
So, of course, BJ Novak's character gets guilted into going to a funeral for a girl
that he hooked up with.
He could have said no. He could have been a little more forceful, but somewhere in that millennial snowflake heart of his,
the cold black depths was a little bit.
He cared a little bit.
Yeah.
He cared just enough.
He cared just enough. He felt that little bit of guilt where I meant something to somebody.
So I should
because
probably
I
go
was
down.
in her phone and her talked about to her family. Maybe I do need to make an appearance.
Now, also keep in mind that his profession is as a, wait for it, podcaster.
A writer for a New York magazine. And a podcaster trying to find his one big breakout moment.
So as Dave said, he goes down to Texas, meets the family of Abilene, and they take him in immediately.
Thinking that he meant so much to her that they embrace him as a family member.
But right after the funeral, Abilene's brother in the truck with BJ Novak's character says, now we got to go find out who did this to her and take
get
our
revengeance.
vengeance.
We got to kill the person who killed Abilene.
But now it's a drug overdose. So on the surface,
but she
really,
wouldn't take an Advil.
Right. So you've got
so
people
they all
saying,
said,
was she forced to take the drugs? Is it a cover up for something else? Then we get introduced to all the quirky characters in this Texas
the quirky
community.
family, the friends, acquaintances.
One of the best moments, by the way, again, to reinforce our views of the current younger generation. I know BJ Novak's a little bit older than he lets on in the movie, so he's not part of this generation, but he does a damn good job of portraying, like you said, the selfishness, the egocentric attitude,
disconnect, animosity when amongst everyone.
And this is no spoiler here, but when he doesn't remember that we lost at the Alamo,
had no clue what happened at the Alamo.
And of course, everybody, he should be ashamed of that. I don't care where you're from. You could be from Washington State. You could be from even California. You should know that we got our asses handed to us at the Alamo.
7,000 Mexican troops against 186.
And of course,
Americans.
He goes, and we won!
Yeah. Don't you know math, son?
Then we get into the whole, he's putting together the podcast, trying to make this his story. His producers loving it.
Trying to find out who killed the white girl.
If somebody did actually kill her. But all the family members with their quotes and their eccentricities, all the community members are making for a great podcast. His producers loving it, loving everything he's sending through. But again, as we alluded to, that little twinge of morality that he felt in New York when they said you need to come down for the funeral grows and grows and grows to the point where he's actually obsessed with finding out what happened, regardless of if it's going to sell as a podcast, regardless of who he has to confront in order to find out the truth.
Yep. And then he has,
God forbid, he becomes a journalist, an actual journalist.
I know. And he has that pivotal, eye-opening moment where he's like, oh my God, this is who I am, but this is who I want to be. And he has that existential moment of clarity.
There's a massive conflict in him all the way through, where he's pushing people away, he's bringing people in, pushing them away, bringing them in. He does not know, like you said, till the end, who he is. Now, let me say this, though. I don't know if I'm making this out to be a better movie than it was. Now, I will say this. Definitely much better than a lot of the crap Hollywood puts out.
It was.
It's not the be-all, end-all, though. I would probably go...
It's not a great movie. The acting is mediocre.
I'm not a big
best.
BJ Novak fan.
No.
I'm not. Now, Ashton Kutcher's in it. He's interesting for his role.
Boyd Holbrook.
Right, who plays the brother.
Does a great job there.
I'm going to give it 2.5. I'll give it the weakest of recommendations. I will give it a 2.5 frenzies.
I'm right at 2.5 as well. It's one where the acting isn't that great. The story is so, but kind of the overall
comes together.
The overall message behind it about the commentary of where we are as a country and where people are as individuals. Morality is what really
resonates.
It's like the rug. It just ties it all together.
Yeah, I agree completely. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Exactly.
It ends up working as a movie despite all the criticisms
that
you pointed out. Right. Again, it's a very slow start. You got to get through the first half an hour. Do not turn it off and say this is a waste of time. It will pull together, like Dave said, like the rug. It will pull together eventually.
Yeah. And
not perfectly,
but
very well.
It pulls it together very well. The whole humanity and where we are is wrapped up beautifully.
So, very tepid recommendations for Vengeance from Dave and I.
But we've seen a hell of a lot worse.
That's the whole problem, is that Dave and I, as we go through this, and you guys have listened to us week after week, we are very, very harsh on these movies.
We've seen a lot of crap.
Don't waste our time. At least I didn't feel like Vengeance wasted my time.
No, it was not a waste of time. It was worth getting through.
All right, as I mentioned, because I had already watched Vengeance and Dave had to catch up, which I loved.
It was
gave me a week off almost,
time.
so I could explore. Don't take that the wrong way. We're not talking about vibrating anal beads.
I was going to say, have you been playing chess this week?
Yeah. You got to check out the Sports Frenzy regular edition to get that reference. But I watched a couple documentaries. I will get into a mood every once in a while where I want to watch some documentaries because fiction does not compare to reality a lot of the time.
Because most of the time you can't write this shit that happens.
Yeah. So I ended up digging around on Amazon Prime Video, found a couple interesting documentaries. Now, the good thing about documentaries is usually they're not a huge investment of time. They usually run an hour and 20 to an hour 30 minutes. So if they're not great, at least you're not wasting 2.5 hours on like a bad Marvel movie or something like that. Thor, Love and Thunder. So the first one I watched, which unfortunately, given what's going on in Florida right now, is a little bittersweet to review. I watched a movie called Closed for Storm, which was made just last year in 2021. Again, very short, about an hour and 20 minutes. It is about the attempts to put an amusement park in East New Orleans, Louisiana. Originally, they had an idea for a place called Jazzland. And now they wanted this to be roller coasters, water park, downtown Disney. They wanted everything.
A typical theme park.
Yes, they were going to make they found a great piece of land. Of course, there's always the worries in New Orleans about, is it solid enough?
Right.
They found a piece of land where it did have a
solid
foundation. It was not going to sink. If you build roller coasters, they're not going to sink into the swamp and the bayou and the silt. So they had that going for them. They put Jazzland together, got up and running, was fairly popular for about 2 or 3 years, but they ran into financial trouble. Six Flags comes in, swoops in, buys the place out, turns it into Six Flags New Orleans. You're going to love this. Again, referencing the sports angle here. Real quick flash on the screen. Real quick mention. I did not realize this, but as they talk about Six Flags taking over Jazzland, turning it into Six Flags New Orleans, Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington Commanders, I guess had some kind of influence or impact or ownership share in Six Flags at that point.
Really?
So they mentioned him real quick.
And
then Hurricane Katrina hits. So what makes this a halfway interesting documentary to watch is the footage they have of this ghost amusement park after Katrina. Because what happened was Katrina hit, as we know, devastated New Orleans, devastated
the surrounding areas,
the amusement park. Nobody wanted to step up and fix the amusement park. Six Flags bailed on it.
Oof.
And this is back in the late 2000s.
Oof.
And like I mentioned,
so
very
it
key.
Wasn't doing phenomenally enough to make it worth the investment to keep it going.
And at the time Six Flags was bailing, they had bailed on their Houston theme park, Astroworld, as well as a one in Kentucky. So it was, again, business that grown too big, too fast, had to contract.
Right.
Katrina ended up being very convenient, let's say, for Six Flags, where they could basically bail, get the insurance money.
Insurance money to bolster the rest of the business.
So again, the story in and of itself isn't overly enticing, but the footage, it makes me want to actually go down there and drive by and through this place.
Just
like
to
a
see
ghost amusement park. It's still there to this day. Nobody,
like
because
Chernobyl.
They don't want to spend the money to tear it down either.
It's kind of like Chernobyl.
Yes.
They had the full amusement park and everything else there.
Yes. Great analogy, Dave. It's too much to spend to tear it down, but it's too much to spend to clean it up and revitalize it. Six Flags took out the rides that they brought in
and left what was originally
there from Jazzland. So in that sense, the footage is fascinating to a point as they go through the buildings.
Fascinating and depressing at the same time.
It is depressing. You can see the water line on the walls. Oof. There's still computer monitors left behind. And of course, vandals got in and have put graffiti on everything. So it's worth watching for the footage. Again, it's not real long, so it's not like a huge investment of your time. I'm only going to give it 2 frenzies because, again, I just gave you the entire story. You don't get anything else. There's no really in-depth reporting behind the scenes of the corruption that's going on.
Dark secrets.
Right. But the footage of this amusement park as it sits there and sits there
and rusts and
rots is fascinating in its own way. So 2 frenzies for that. Now we get on to the one that I'm going to recommend to Dave and to all of you. But caveat, you will feel dirty, nasty, and disgusting once you watch this. Because the name of the game in this movie is exploitation. This is American Grindhouse, another documentary I watched on Amazon Prime, talking about the exploitation movies all the way from the 20s through the 1970s in American cinema.
So you're going to have all the women's prison movies, the blaxploitation, the sexploitation, all the biker flicks,
the reefer madness, the drug stuff. Yes, and it's a fascinating look, again, to a point, of all the movies that were guilty pleasures for us to all watch. Now, this one was made in 2010, so it's not necessarily up to date. I don't know if there's really...
we haven't had any exploitation.
I was going to say, I don't know if there's really... that's why they kind of drew the line at the late 70s.
Yeah,
they basically said Jaws was an exploitation movie that was a blockbuster, and therefore Hollywood took over, and that was the end. Because Jaws was like one of those old school bloody monster movies.
Yeah, I guess I could kind of see that.
But they go through movies like Freaks, which was for its time was unbelievably controversial because they actually used real circus freaks.
Yeah.
But again, American Grindhouse is highlighting the dark side of cinema. Pre-code, post-code.
Exploiting the marginalized.
Now, Amazon Prime has it listed as a PG-13 movie. It is not PG-13. It is R-rated. Do not let your children watch this. This stuff is not X, but it is hard R. Lots of nudity, lots of violence. But it's fascinating if you want to see the history of exploitation cinema and see how low Hollywood and independent filmmakers would go to earn a buck.
So you got a lot of the Roger Cormans.
Roger Corman's mentioned, of course. There are some prominent directors.
Do you have the Blood Island?
Did not see Blood Island. But Joe Dante is mentioned. He's interviewed often. John Landis is interviewed often. John Landis comes off as a fun guy. John Landis comes off as a guy who just enjoys movies, even as bad as some of these movies are, even as morally corrupt as some of these movies are. He's just a fun guy to listen to. He seems like he's just having a ball talking about movies. There's another director, Jack Hill. He comes off as the exact opposite. He comes off as a sleazy scumbag. He was part of the blaxploitation movement in the 70s. He basically says, who cares if we were killing a bunch of white people? Because, gee, this will sound familiar given our current cultural and political climate. What goes around comes around. It's never.
I was going to say, gee, that some things never change.
This is a white director who directed Pam Grier in a lot of the Coffee was one of them, Foxy Brown, the blaxploitation movies, talking about how it seemed like all the white people were the ones getting killed. And he was basically praising it, saying, oh, who cares? We killed off a bunch of white people. It's about time they got what they deserved. Well, okay, that's not really the way we should be handling this. And I could say that about today, just like he was talking about the 70s. But I digress. This movie will fascinate you and disgust you at the same time, especially when they bring up The Last House on the Left, which is arguably one of the most horrific, disgusting exploitation movies of all time. There's Nazi movies in there that just look ridiculously stupid because
they're ridiculously stupid.
Yeah, one of them is Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS.
God.
And the sad thing is, I looked that up. It's available on Amazon Prime.
God.
Both Last House on the Left, the original, and Ilsa, She-Wolf
they run
of the
through
SS.
I Spit on Your Grave.
No, I think Ilsa's not available. I'm sorry. They did not bring up I Spit on Your Grave. Second most disgusting movie of all time.
Anything with the Faces of Death stuff?
No. And of
really?
course, I've seen that. Yes. Now, that's after the 70s cutoff, though.
Faces of Death were
the
hit
80s.
The early 80s, so yeah.
But that would be that's a very good point. Those are exploitation movies. Definitely exploitation movies.
Big time.
But no, it's not all. I mean, they even talk about the beach movies, which are not offensive in any way, shape, or form, other than they point out a couple instances where they say, one in particular, where they have a guy.
How to Catch a Wild Bikini?
That might be it, where the father is in the dressing room with his daughter as she puts on different types of tight sweaters and things, and he's like basically drooling and fawning over his hot daughter.
No, How to Catch a Wild Bikini is a Frankie and Annette.
They did show Frankie and Annette, though. But yeah, that's not the same movie, but same genre.
Yeah. Wow, that's just wrong on every freaking level.
But that's what this movie is trying to expose, is the morally bankrupt, corruptness of these
High
filmmakers.
School Confidential.
Yeah, I mean, going all the way back again to the early days of cinema, even showing, movies in black and white without sound, and how some of those were exploitative.
Yeah.
So I'll give it 2.5 Frenzies, because it's not a great experience in terms of how you feel after you watch it and some of the things that you see or are alluded to without even having to watch the movies, like Last House on the Left. Again, if you want to feel like you want to go out in the back garage and hang yourself, watch that movie. And just if you want
to scrub yourself with bleach.
Right. Thinking about the people that made this movie, that acted in this movie. That's the type of feeling you're going to have after watching this, is, man, we are not great as a society. We are not great people if we allowed this stuff to go into theaters and people actually paid money to watch it.
Yeah. There's a lot of disgusting, disturbing
But again, it's fascinating. It's just fascinating. So
you will see the times we live in now are no different from the times years ago. The times of yore, shall we say.
Yeah. So I'll give it a bare recommendation of 2.5 frenzies, no pun intended when I say bare, because there is a lot of nudity in this. But again, the violence, the blood, the degradation that's involved in a lot of these movies is disturbing. So I will give you that warning. But if you love movies, if you love the history of movies, I would recommend it.
And he sat through every disgusting frame twice.
I actually looked up a couple of these movies, but I could not pull the trigger on watching.
Sorry, that was a Porky's reference.
Exploitation!
80s doesn't count.
Would you count Porky's and Bachelor Party as exploitation movies? I don't know if you could.
That's borderline.
That's almost a little too harsh. But again,
it is.
The movie
it's
at the,
the
end,
raunchy comedy.
The movie at the end tries to tell you how the Hollywood system co-opted the exploitation movies. So
ergo, you get into Hot Dog, Porky's, that
Bachelor
whole
Party,
realm up the creek.
Yep. Argument could be made.
Any chance to show boobs?
Argument could be made. And then, of course, you could look at Saw. You could look at Hostel. They did mention Hostel as an example
of modern day,
of a modern day exploitation movie because of the ultra violence involved.
Well, at that rate, then you could put all the Final Destinations.
Again, I don't know if I'd go that far. Saw, yes. Hostel, yes. I mean, and then they remade Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah.
Thanks to Eli Roth and Hostel and that whole
run of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
now,
like I said.
Now, do you throw Tarantino in there?
To a point, you can. I was shocked they didn't mention him. Outside of at the very end, they mentioned, of course, Grindhouse.
Yeah, but you got to look
his
at
homage to the exploitation
everything
movies.
Beforehand.
Oh, yeah. Oh, even stuff after that, though.
Yeah.
Even Django. Django's technically an exploitation
Hateful
movie.
Eight. To some extent.
I don't know.
The violence.
Yeah, well, any movie of his with the violence. Kill Bill, to me.
Oh my God, Kill Bill was ridiculous.
Senseless, brutal violence, especially the first one.
Yeah, with the 88.
Yep. Again, Dave and I could talk about this stuff for hours.
We have.
That's why you need to come to us on the Weekend Edition for your discussions of all pop culture, books, movies, TV shows, and music. Speaking of books and TV shows, next segment, Dave's got a book review for you, David Baldacci, and we will break down
Animal Kingdom,
one of the greatest shows of the past 15 years. Stay tuned for that. We will be right back. When the mindless zombies at the major sports networks won't leave you alone. When the forces of evil on local sports radio have you cornered. Load up the boomstick known as Sports Frenzy 2.0. Available on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox. Kev Dave will drive the dull and boring voices in your head away and offer you the sports salvation you need. New episodes drop every Thursday. And don't forget the Weekend Edition every Saturday, where the maestro and the conquistador might just review your favorite horror flick. Sports Frenzy 2.0. It's groovy. All right, kids, third and final segment here for the Weekend Edition, taping on September the 28th, 2022. This is hitting Saturday morning, October the 1st. He's a conquistador, Dave Height.
He's a maestro, Kevin Crane.
we have got to talk about one of the best shows of the last 15 to 20 years, and we will definitely discuss it in detail. But first off, we've got a couple little movie news tidbits to cover. Dave's got a book review, and then we will get into the 6-season run of Animal Kingdom. But huge news from the Marvel Comics universe this week. Good and bad. Let's start with the good.
The very good. Deadpool 3. We've had some teasers come out from Ryan Reynolds talking about Deadpool's entry into the MC universe.
And of course, we've all been scared to death that now with Disney in charge of Fox in the MCU, that they're going to tone down our favorite foul-mouthed mercenary.
I don't think that will happen, but go out, find the teasers with Ryan Reynolds, and yes, everyone's favorite Wolverine, Hugh Jackman.
That is right. Hugh Jackman has confirmed he will come back in Deadpool 3, which will be out September the 6th, 2024. Very odd release date.
Yes, it is.
Why wouldn't you put that out in the middle of summer or Christmas time?
Is it Labor Day weekend?
Could be Labor Day weekend, yeah. And of course, Marvel had great success last year with Shang-Chi over Labor Day weekend, but Deadpool's much bigger.
Deadpool is huge.
I have a feeling.
Get it? Huge with Hugh Jackman coming back in.
I have a feeling that release date will shift and change.
It's got to. That's too far out, isn't it?
They've got to move that in the middle of summer, I would imagine. I could see that getting bumped up a couple months to July. But again, great news that Hugh Jackman is going to return as Wolverine. And in the clips, as Dave said, check them out. They explain how they can pull it off.
Yeah,
it's very simple, actually.
It's brilliant. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, when they do these, they have a great chemistry. You can tell that they have a good friendship, which they really do, and it comes through in these.
You know what really, in this day and age, depresses me is that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman come off as two of the nicest, coolest, most likable movie stars in the world. And so, of course, my cynical brain in this day and age keeps waiting for a scandal, keeps waiting for something bad to happen to expose one or both of them.
Wouldn't it have happened by now?
I don't know. How long did Kevin Spacey go before they found out he was a pervo? And I still think I can separate it. I can still say Kevin Spacey is still one of the greatest actors I've ever seen. But in real life, absolute scummy douchebag.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem separating it.
Hugh Jackman.
Pete Rose, great baseball player.
Scumbag as an individual.
Right.
Hugh Jackman has been married to his wife. Probably
Beard?
One of the...
Beard?
No.
This is what I'm saying, though.
Hugh
this
Jackman
is the cynical part of me.
To his wife, who is older than him. They have been married forever.
Greatest Showman? Beard.
God.
I'm sorry, Hugh. I love you. I just said I love you. I'm just trying to prove a point here that this is how our society has poisoned. Are trying to find some level of goodness in celebrities, because most of Hollywood are scumbags. Assholes.
They are scum of the earth, but there are the genuinely decent ones out there.
Now, on the flip side with the MCU, bad news for the upcoming Blade movie, the reboot. Of course, we had the trilogy, really good trilogy, featuring Ryan Reynolds at one point.
Yep.
The Blade trilogy with Wesley
Snipes,
who of course appears in What We
What
Do
We
in
Do
the
in the
Shadows. But of course, Mahershala Ali is taking over, which is a great casting move.
Really,
one of the few times where I'm fine with them recasting. He'll be perfect. But
this is really good.
Blade lost a director. Bassam Tariq has dropped out, so now you wonder. Normally, I wouldn't have a big concern about this. Like with Star Trek, they just lost their director for the 4th movie. Not a big deal. They'll get to it when they get to it. But this stuff is all planned out.
Yeah, you have a timeline building up to the next big...
In this case, it'll be Secret Wars. So they were supposed to start shooting this movie within the next couple months, is my understanding.
Yeah.
They better get a director in place and get this going, because how will this affect the cascading effect of all the other movies coming after it?
God forbid we've already had too many damn delays because of COVID. We don't need further delays for stupidity like this.
Finally, in movie news, the voice of Darth Vader,
James Earl Jones,
retiring from voicing.
He's done a lot of the animated.
He's done all of it. He has been the sole voice.
Darth Vader.
But now with AI technology, he signs over the quote-unquote voice rights to Darth Vader. So now Darth Vader's voice will be
synthesized?
Yeah, an AI kind of configuration, I guess. Won't be the same.
No,
won't be the same.
It won't.
And of course, we'll always have, I am your father.
Luke.
All right, time to move on to books, or as we like to call it,
Literary Frenzy.
Going back to the old school cable access days, Literary Frenzy, yes. David has a review of a book for you, because, of course, it will take me until 2024 to get to my next book review. So
there you go. Nope. God, this David Baldacci's 620 Man. I've really got to get done with this frickin' construction project at home, because it's killing me on every front. It's taken me 3 weeks to get through this book, and it should
3 weeks. Oh my God, 3 weeks. I get through 100 pages in 3 weeks, not an entire book.
And it wasn't a bad book. It was a fairly quick-paced book. Travis Devine, former Army Ranger who left under a dark cloud, a self-imposed exile, into the financial world. Left the Army, got his MBA, and went to work for one of the firms on Wall Street. Fictional, of course. And starts off, why is he the 620 man? Because he takes the 620 train from where he lives into the city every day in his self-imposed exile. Gets a text one morning that one of his coworkers, whom he had a relationship with that she broke off, was found dead of an apparent suicide, hanging in one of the closets on an upper floor. The mystery ensues from there, because it's an untraceable email that he's gotten. This book is like an onion. There are so many layers to unravel. It's almost gets to a point where Baldacci tries to outdo himself in some areas. It's a good intro to a new character for him. The storyline is good. There are some parts where it just kind of gets a little rambling. In the end, it's kind of worth the payoff to see how he ties it all together, because what you get's not necessarily where you think it's going. I'll be interested to see what he does with the character going forward.
So it's going to be a series.
I think it's going to be a series. The way it's led off, I think this is going to be one of his new characters. I'll give it 2.5. Not horrible, not great. It's intriguing, and it's enough for me to want to know what is he going to do with this character next. So, 620 Man by David Baldacci is worthwhile.
There we go. And of course, like I mentioned, I will have a review of Heat 2 probably right when I hit Social Security. No, I will probably, with considering the books that are coming out over the next 3 or 4 months, I know we've got the latest Lucas Davenport, Virgil Flowers. I'll read that. I'll burn through that fairly quickly, not as quickly as you.
There's a number of books coming down the line. God, there's a few that have been...
New Robert Craze book, with Colin Pike.
Yep. I've got to still go back and get through Nelson DeMille's latest John Corey that came out a few months ago that I haven't gotten to yet. So I will have some books for you coming down the line here, kids.
I read really good. I will read a book and have a review in 2023.
All right, now.
Well, wait, let me give you a couple TV and streaming tidbits.
Oh, you're killing me, Smalls.
I don't want to interrupt our discussion. So, one of these I know you will care about. Because you've been watching Jack Ryan on Amazon, right?
I have.
Season 3 of Jack Ryan hits Amazon Prime on December the 21st.
It took them damn long enough to get it out.
That's what she said.
Gee, that lines up along about the time when Doom Patrol will hit HBO Max.
I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
November we're supposed to get Titans. December Doom Patrol.
Okay, so Titans will come out before Doom Patrol.
Yes. That is what I got from my youngest today.
And he is in the know on this stuff. So I trust him.
He stays on top of it. So, God, the boys and I are going to have a busy November, December coming up here.
Now, I know you don't care about this. And you'll ridicule me, and that's fine. I'm very interested to watch, starting, I believe, this Sunday, which would be tomorrow, as of course this hits October the 1st on Saturday. I believe Sunday night the 2nd, the reboot AMC series Interview with the Vampire starts off. They're so impressed with what they've seen of what's been shot so far. They've already renewed it for season 2.
It was a frickin' movie. Why are you going 2 seasons on it?
There are other books.
I know, but still, come on. It wasn't even that damn good.
And of course, in this day and age, they can explore the whole homoerotic angles, I guess, more.
Whatever.
I'll be interested to watch the beginning and see how it plays out.
Have at it.
I always thought the movie was a guilty pleasure.
Never liked it.
Then finally, rebranding all over the place. Epics will become, at the turn of the calendar, as we go into 2023, Epics will become MGM Plus.
No more Epics Drive-In?
They're supposedly keeping all the content, but no more Epics per se, so no.
Oh, balls.
But of course, they'll have all the Bond movies, they'll have all the old MGM content, all the Rocky stuff.
Epics had some of the twisted exploitation flicks on there. Come on.
Again, I don't think they're changing the content.
Just the name.
Just the name. All right. It's what Dave and I have been waiting for. We've got about 15 minutes to discuss.
Yep. I will say right off the bat, now that I am complete with Animal Kingdom. Peaky Blinders, final season, overall wrap up is weeks away. Now I can finally get to it, having finally gotten caught up with Animal Kingdom.
And of course, I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I had been keeping up on it throughout the years. So when it wrapped up, I was watching the last episode as it aired. Done. Dave was catching up. He was still working through season 5 into season 6.
You know, I wish I would have started this right at the beginning, but at the same time, I'm glad I waited and was able to blow through all 6 seasons in a short time span, to not have the lag waiting, because this is one of those shows that sucks you in and you want to keep going and going and going to know what the hell are the Cody's gonna do next.
Yeah, now, of course, something we've discussed in the past, but quick background. Animal Kingdom is the TNT series just wrapped up based on the Australian movie starring Guy Pearce is in it, Joel Edgerton is in it, Jackie Weaver's in it. Now, of course, that was an Australian family, obviously. Crime family masquerading as somehow of a normal functioning family that was not really normally functioning. Now, of course, TNT gave the green light to the TV show based in California, making it more of a surfer community type deal. But again, the mother, still demented, still twisted, has her own versions of what a family should be, and a lot of those ideas push the boundaries of normal, proper taste.
Yeah.
But of course, they're still criminals too.
Yeah. I mean, they have their criminal empire where they will do whatever it takes to live their lives. What is their favorite toast? May we get everything we want and nothing we deserve.
Yeah, now, again, even though Dave's finished, there are spoilers out there I don't necessarily want to give out to everybody out there who might actually listen to our positive reviews and go out there and want to watch the show. I don't want to spoil everything for you. Ellen Barkin plays
the matriarch Smurf.
Nicknamed Smurf. And then, of course, she's got all
Janine Cody.
She's got all these sons from different men of varying levels of functionality, let's put it.
Intelligence.
But they're all intriguing, all
criminal skill sets.
Right. And then, of course, what the impetus is for the TV show Animal Kingdom is she has to take in her grandson
from her estranged daughter,
and who basically she pushed into desolation and poverty. You can make an argument. You could make an argument, yeah, that a lot of it was her daughter's fault, but how much of it did mom push her into?
Mom had a heavy influence. Smurf influenced all of those kids.
And this is what's an amazing part of the show, is that it comes full circle.
It's a full manipulation.
Season 1, right at the beginning, she takes in her grandson,
Jay.
The 6th and final season, in flashbacks, we see how Smurf pushed Jay's mother into
the life
that ended up taking her life at too young of an age
and banishing her with the rest of the family,
showing no mercy, no caring, even though she was with child, even though, as Dave alluded to, she had drug issues. So for a TNT show, this is a pretty serious, brutal show at times.
Yeah, it can be very violent.
But you don't.
But
You take sides. You have to figure out which characters, which of the sons you like. Do you like them all? At times, they will test your patience. They will drive you crazy. You'll sit there and wondering, why am I rooting for this guy or all of them to pull off bank heists or drug deals? But in the end, they're actually
the real bad person in this was Smurf,
the mother.
The mother, her manipulation. I mean, these guys, the love they have for each other, what they want to do versus what they have been forced to do or brainwashed to do, the only thing they know how to do. It's very intriguing how it's all brought together and the interaction among everybody.
And at various times throughout the 6 seasons, you see what the individual sons want out of life. Yeah. What they really care about, their passions, whether it's a child, whether it's a bar, whether it's a skate park, you know.
They know what they want, but they are not allowed to have it.
And in many ways, some of them aren't emotionally and mentally equipped to deal with it. Hence, where Jay comes in, the grandson, who is more than savvy when it comes to finances, learning this from Smurf, how to cover tracks, how to wash money, how to launder money.
He has a plan. He knows what he wants, and he learns how to pull it off.
So again, not trying to spoil anything. Don't want to do that to you kids out there. Just glad that Dave's watched the whole thing, so he and I
tell you what, it's a hell of a frickin' ride.
And again, shocking to me that this show is on basic cable, because again, it is raw, it is intense at times, drug addiction, lots of drinking, lots of
drugs, violence.
But it is a wonderfully well done show, unbelievably intense,
beautifully
well acted beyond belief. As I mentioned, when I finished it up a couple weeks ago, it's hands down one of my 2 or 3 favorite shows of the last 15, 20 years. I give it 4 frenzies.
It's a 4 frenzy show from start to finish. And I love how they started doing the flashbacks.
Yep.
To see how it all began.
We will not tell you why they shifted the flashbacks, but there's a reason for it.
There is a very good reason for it. And it pulls everything together on how it all came to be.
Yep. And it was a very, very smart, brilliant move on the part of the writers to go down that road. Because the first couple seasons, we get to see the characters grow and develop in real time.
Yeah.
And then they go to the flashbacks to try to flesh out
how
the gaps and what we didn't know.
How Smurf became Smurf and what she started to do. The whole beginning of it all. And there's some intense stuff in there.
Yep. I can't recommend Animal Kingdom anymore. I am just happy that Dave enjoyed it, because this was one of those shows that I felt like I pushed on him and I badgered him and I kept telling him, damn it, you got to watch Animal Kingdom. And it took him like 2 years. And it's
one of those, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yep.
When I get to it.
Yep.
And so probably within the last 9 months, I've gotten through all 6 seasons.
Yeah. And I guarantee he was muttering under his breath, God damn it.
Just shut up and leave me alone. I'll get to it. It's on my list.
But now aren't you glad you did watch it?
I am. And now I can move on to Peaky Blinders' final season. And then we can drop Netflix and pick something else up to move on to other things.
All right, kids. Again, last time we'll be talking about it, but check out, if you haven't watched Animal Kingdom, if you love, I mean, it covers family drama, it's crime, it's action,
Manipulation.
any of those. It's almost like an old school 70s show in some respects.
Yeah, it does have that feel.
You know, when those shows like Starsky and Hutch and Beretta had a little bit of the more urban, gritty, down and dirty feel to them.
Yeah, that edgy storyline.
Check out Animal Kingdom. I believe you can get it on Amazon Prime. Watch it, stream it on that.
Season 6 was still available on demand. Yeah.
All right, believe it or not.
Although on demand, it's only through the end of. I think it's only another week or so. So I got it just in time.
Yeah, I don't know if you can put it on your DVR, and maybe
not
TNT's gonna
maybe they'll redo them.
Maybe do a marathon.
But if you got Prime, you can watch the first 5 seasons, and I'm sure 6 will be on there before long.
For the first time ever, Hollywood behaved themselves this week, so we do not have any dumbasses.
Yeah, we don't have any new manifest editions for the Plane of Doom.
So take a week off, Hollywood. Say your prayers. Thank the Lord that you are the satanistic, evil, pagan god that you bow down to, John Oliver and Trevor Noah and Jimmy Kimmel, that we didn't find anything this week that you pissed us off enough with to single you out. So to wrap up the weekend edition, we do have a couple moments of silence. Arguably one of the greatest performances in motion picture history was Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, the foil to Jack Nicholson.
That would be Louise Fletcher, who won an Academy Award. One of the few times a film won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and I believe Best Screenplay.
I think so. Yeah, it swept, and deservedly so. Even though it's a film you can really only watch once.
Yeah, it is not one that you can really, like a Hot Tub Time Machine, where you can watch it every couple months and still enjoy it.
Yeah,
this is one you might watch every decade, maybe. I wouldn't say it's that extreme. It's not Schindler's List, but it's not one. It's not a feel-good movie.
It's not one you're gonna watch repeatedly,
right? But Louise Fletcher, thoughts and prayers. Again, one of the greatest performances probably in motion picture history. And then, of course, Dave and I saw the Doobie Brothers here a couple months back. John Hartman was not with the band. He had quit the band a long time before, but former Doobie Brothers drummer John Hartman passed away.
Thoughts and prayers.
And that will do it for the weekend edition. Hopefully we got you through your hangover. Hopefully you took a couple aspirin.
Hopefully you took some notes and now have plans on how to spend your downtime.
Watch Animal Kingdom. If you got time, watch Vengeance.
Yep.
Listen to the Smithereens. Man.
It's all good.
As we mentioned, next week, Sammy Hagar in the Circle. I will have my review of My Best Friend's Exorcism. I don't know if Dave will partake or not. New music coming from Godsmack, Skid Row, Red Hot Chili Peppers, their tribute to Eddie Van Halen.
Yep. And hey, drop us a line. Give us a suggestion. We'll talk to you next week, kids.